Let's start today with an obvious statement. Things change. Think about it. You probably don't listen to the same music you did 3 years ago. Your wardrobe is probably different than it was back in 5th grade. You look different than you did when you were a little kid. These are changes that are, for the most part, expected. No one expects to look the same way they did back in elementary school. But there are also changes that are unexpected. Changes that feel like they show up out of nowhere. And unlike changes in fashion trends and musical taste, these types of changes can be a little more difficult to deal with. For example, maybe you've had a friendship or a group of friends that changed. Maybe you changed location. You moved to a different neighborhood, town, or state. And now you're figuring out that landing in a new place isn't easy to navigate. Maybe you had an injury or financial challenge. Unexpected changes have a way of disrupting our lives. It doesn't matter who you are, unexpected change affects all of us. And because of that, we need some sense of stability. We want something, some place, someone, some person or group that stays the same when nothing else feels secure. For a lot of people, family is that thing. For others, family has never been that safe or secure place. But for all of us, there's this idea, either from our own experience or a belief that we have, that family should be constant. Even if it's not, we expect it to be. So when change happens in a family, it can be much more difficult to deal with. Maybe you've experienced this. Maybe your parents got divorced. You thought your parents would be together forever, and there didn't seem to be anything wrong. But then suddenly, they split up. Maybe a parent passed away. Whether it was expected because of an illness or totally unexpected, there's no preparing for that kind of loss. Maybe one of your parents got a new job and had to move away for a while, and now the routine of seeing your mom or your dad has completely changed. Maybe you got a new addition to the family, and with a new baby brother or sister, the way you feel like you've been treated is different. Sure, you're still loved, but you no longer get the attention you're used to. Maybe a sibling went away to college. You're happy for them, and honestly, there's more peace in the house without them around. But the truth is, it has changed your family dynamics. You actually miss the normalcy of fighting over the bathroom, sharing clothes, and the way your older siblings held things together. No matter what our experience is with change, something about it happening in our families makes it more difficult. And if avoiding change isn't possible, how do we get better at handling it? How do we navigate it without becoming bitter or cynical? How can we be better prepared for it? Let's talk about it. When you look at the Bible, you might be surprised to see that a lot of the writers were helpful when it comes to dealing with change. In fact, the writer of the Old Testament book, Ecclesiastes, who many people believe was King Solomon, had a lot to say about change. Solomon was an ancient king of Israel, and God blessed him with an incredible wisdom. In fact, at one point, another author in the Bible said that Solomon was wiser than everyone else. You may be thinking, I'm glad that an ancient king from a place that I've never been was wise, but what does that have to do with change in my family? I'm glad you asked. In the passage we're going to look at, Solomon is writing about some things he's observed in his lifetime, and one of those things was change. Check it out. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. It's a very poetic way of saying, everyone get ready. Change is coming. It is going to happen. Nothing stays constant. The things you're experiencing today will look different tomorrow. This is the world we all live in, so we might as well just get used to it. In some ways, this seems kind of depressing. I would love to hear that there's a way that I could make change less painful, or even better. If there was a way that I could keep change from ever happening at all. But that's not what Solomon is saying. In fact, he's saying the exact opposite. He's letting us know that everything will change at some point or another. But the truth is that when we know things will change, both in our families and in the world around us, we can be prepared to deal with it. Instead of fighting change and pretending like things will always stay the same, we can open our hands and give up control. God is fully aware of everything that changes in our lives. God knows that good and bad will show up, and neither will last forever. But in this life of constant change, God also makes a promise to us. And unfortunately, the promise isn't that he's gonna make all of the difficulties go away. In the book of Isaiah, we learn about a message God had for his people. Most people believe that Isaiah was written during a time of trouble for Israel. They were either in captivity in Babylon or coming out of exile. They had been forced to leave their homes and live in a land with people who didn't like them or their way of life. Everything that felt safe, secure, and stable all of a sudden wasn't. And in the midst of that, this is what God said to them. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Imagine the comfort that must have brought the people hearing it. When everything around them was changing, God wasn't. The same is true for us. In every single moment and season of change, including family change, God will be with us. He is walking through the difficulty with us. We are never alone. God is never caught off guard by the changes in our lives. And if he has promised to be with us, that must be exactly what we need. Think about it this way. Maybe you've used one of these key ring things before. It actually has a functional purpose for rock climbing. This is a carabiner, and it locks. Why? Because it has a really significant purpose. According to a climbing website, locking carabiners manage all these tasks safely and ease your mind in dangerous situations, since you know that your rope and yourself are securely attached to the rock. You may sway, you may slip a bit, you may get bruised or scraped up. The weather may become different than what it was when you started. All kinds of factors around you may change, but you can remain at ease because you know you're attached to the rock. In the same way, God is always with us. God's always there, locked in with us every single moment that change comes our way, including family change. We can't control the people in our families, and as much as we want our families to be stable and constant, it doesn't always happen. So since we can't stop change and we can't control people, what can we do? Well, we can start by focusing on our mindset, thinking, attitude, and perspective. We can change the way we look at change. Think of it this way. When your family goes through rough waters, your mindset can see you through. When someone in your family moves out, your mindset matters. When someone moves in, your mindset matters. You can't control the external circumstances, but you can work on your attitude and perspective. You can remember that God is with you, even when they're not. Here are a few steps to help you work on it. Understand that change will happen. This is why the passage in Ecclesiastes is so powerful. There's a time for everything. Change is bound to happen. Understanding that doesn't make it easier to handle, but at least now we know that it's a reality of life that everyone deals with. Know that God is with you. Like Isaiah writes, whether you pass through the waters or walk through the fire, God will never leave you alone. And whatever change you face in your family, God will be right there with you, helping you and comforting you. Trust that God can use the change to change you. God can use your time of change and adjustment to grow us in ways we may have never ever expected. God can do something in and through our time of change. But we have to think long term. However bad it feels right now, it won't feel this way forever. When we have a long-term view, we know there's something after this. We might just not see it yet. God isn't done. And if we can begin to see change this way, we can embrace it as something that can take us somewhere good. Change has the potential to be something that causes us to grow, mature, and become more of who God designed us to be. Without question, change is difficult. A new season, a new house, a new town, a new stepmom, a new normal. Whatever it is, it's not easy, especially when it comes to family. Just know that you're not alone. You're not the only one dealing with change. Like Solomon said, it's bound to hit all of us. You're not alone because God is with you. And you're not alone because you have a small group to talk to about all of this. If you're having a particularly hard time dealing with a certain change in your life right now, don't be afraid to ask your small group leader. When your family goes through rough waters, your mindset can see you through. So let's ask God for the strength and grace to help us get our mindsets in the right place.